Hey there, it's Sandra here. I wanted to let you know that this episode of the Ndini podcast is proudly being brought to you by Woman on Fire Summit. One of the things that I heard through this community, as well as in my travels all over the world, is that so many of us are playing small. So many of us are afraid to step into those big goals and dreams that we have. So many of us are afraid to step into our purpose. And what I wanted to do was create a day where we can come together to be inspired, to be entertained, and to have community and eat some great food too. And so that's what we created through Woman on Fire Summit. It's happening on April the 5th in Toronto, and you'll be hearing from speakers like Lisa Nichols, Gabby Bernstein, Stefan Speaks, and so many more. So join us on April the 5th, 2020. If you're in Toronto, if you're close to Toronto, if you can get to Toronto, or if you know someone who is, make sure to share this information. Hurry over to our website. It's www.womanonfiresummit.com, or you can find us on social media at Woman on Fire Summit, and fully step into your fire. Step into all that you were meant to be in 2020. I hope to see you there. Hi and welcome. This is Sandra. Welcome to a little bit of a different kind of episode this week. So we've had so much feedback on my interview with the incredible Lisa Nichols. I don't think we've ever had quite this much feedback on an interview. And to be quite honest, I completely understand that. It was a truly phenomenal interview. It was phenomenal for me being in the room and sitting in that interview. In fact, to be quite honest, it felt almost like I was having an out-of-body experience, like I was observing myself in the interview. Lisa said so many things that are quotables. I hope you've been following along on Instagram and Facebook as we've been posting clips from that. And I I cannot highly recommend enough that you watch both episodes. As you know, it was a 2-part episode. Watch both episodes because in both episodes, she said such incredible things. But what I wanted to do was to bring you a little bit behind the scenes and tell you about the story of what led to that interview. So for starters, how I reached out to Lisa was I'd been trying to get an interview with her for a really long time, but she's incredibly busy, travels all over the world speaking. And so it's very hard to get an interview with Lisa. But I'd reached out to her team and asked them if I could have an interview. And then I'd also at the same time asked if she might be open to being a keynote speaker for me for an event. Long story short, when I very first reached out to Lisa's team, her team was very nice, very nice. But they said to me, I'm sorry, we're not able to accommodate your request. Ms. Nichols is very busy, number one. Number two, in terms of being your keynote speaker, she doesn't speak at first-time events. And to be quite honest, you have a smaller following than she would typically entertain. But here, I was not to be deterred. And so I thought about it and eventually figured out a way to find this person who knew someone on her team who eventually told me the name. They didn't even give me the number or contact information. They just gave me the name of the person on her team who handled her bookings. So I did what all good people do. I Googled the number for Lisa's office. And when I called Lisa's office, I said the name of the person. I was like, they answered, hello, Lisa Nichols company. What can I do for you? And I said, could you put me through to this person? And so because I knew the person's name, I think it wasn't assumed that I must have some sort of business relationship with them already. So they put me through to the person who answered. And we start having this conversation where I say to her, I'd love to have Miss Nichols on my podcast, and I'd love to find out if she could be a keynote speaker for my event. And she listened. She was very nice about it. And then she said to me exactly what the team had said to me before. Miss Nichols is very much appreciative of the fact that you're interested in her. She has a very booked calendar. She also does not speak at first-time events. And so I don't think that's something we can accommodate. But I was insistent, and I really pitched her on why we needed Lisa to speak to this community and why it was so important to hear her voice on this platform. And so she said to me, I think she just wanted to get me off the phone. She said to me, okay, you know what? I have a meeting actually right after this call with Lisa. What I'm going to do is I'll present your pitch to her and we'll let her decide if she wants to do it. And 15 minutes later, I kid you not, 15 minutes later, she called me back to say, Lisa said she would love to do it.
Ms. Nichols, you don't have enough days in the year for all the yeses. And so I'm grateful that we got to the yes.
I am so grateful.
But here's what I want to acknowledge you for in the no. You didn't let the no stop you. And I'm sitting in front of you because you don't let the no stop you across the board.
So that was the backstory of how I eventually got to get this interview with Lisa. But even that was problematic because, like I said, she travels all over the world speaking. She has an incredibly packed schedule. And so trying to find a date and a time that worked was a challenge. But it just so happened that I saw on her calendar of events that she was coming to my city. And so I reached out to her team to say, hey, was there any way while Lisa was in town that we could make this interview happen? Took a lot of work to do, but eventually they said she has this much of a window between speaking at this event and all these other things that she has. So if you can make it work, then let's go with that. And so that's exactly how that interview happened. So I had to make sure that it was held somewhere close to where she was staying so she wouldn't have to travel, so it wouldn't consume a lot of time with her traveling. And so I thought, genius idea. I'll book a meeting room at the hotel she's staying at. Well, the hotel she was staying at was the hotel where this conference that she was speaking at was being held. And so every meeting room was booked. Pretty much most of the hotel was booked out. But eventually the hotel said to me, you know what we have available, we literally have maybe a couple of suites available. Now, if you've ever seen the background of us shooting an interview, it's a production. We have 3 cameras, we have lots of light, lots of equipment. So we had to think about that in terms of it had to be a space that could accommodate all of this equipment, plus my team, plus Lisa and whoever she was bringing to the interview. So I go to the hotel, I check it out, and it's not ideal, but it's a good size. And one of the other things too that I asked them was, because this hotel is right on the waterfront, and I thought it'd be nice to have a great backdrop in our background when we're filming this interview as I'm speaking to Lisa. So I said to them, could you make sure when I come to do this interview that you give us a room that has the water views? And the hotel was very lovely and said, yes, we'll make a note of that and we'll make sure you get that. Well, interview day comes. Great. I go to the hotel. My team goes in to set up. Yes, we've been given the water views. It all looks amazing. My team takes typically 90 minutes to 2 hours to set up for an interview. So they set up all their equipment and we're all so excited to have Lisa. And the one blessing for us was we were super early because we were so anxious to make sure that we had everything right for when Lisa came for the interview. So they take all their time, they set everything up, we're all set. And then my director of photography, who's in charge of making sure that everything looks great, everything works, we have all the equipment, turns on the cameras to start filming to make sure that the light is right. And he says, I'm really sorry to tell you, Sandra, I have some not so great news. And now we're literally at this point, we're about 60 minutes out from when Lisa's supposed to arrive. And he says, you know what? There's just too much light coming in. We're facing directly into the sun. And so all our shots are going to be overexposed. What? What do you mean? So they try and figure out different solutions, move the furniture around, but nothing was working. We're just getting way too much light. And so we phone downstairs to reception and say, hey, do you have another room that you could move us to? And of course, they said, the hotel is completely sold out right now. But let's see what we can do for you. They call back. Now, time is ticking. Lisa's going to be on her way. At this point, we're now at 45 minutes before Lisa's supposed to come in for the interview. And so the hotel calls and says, we have a room. It's on the other side of the building, so that means it's not going to have as much light. But someone's just checked out of the room, so we still need to have our housekeeping go in and clean the room. We're at 45 minutes out. Remember, I told you it takes 90 minutes for us to set up. So we're like, you know what? We don't care what the room looks like. Can you just show us the room? So we run to the room, and here is what we found. The room hadn't been made, but that wasn't our biggest concern. We opened the windows, we opened the blinds, because of course we need light coming in. And this was, of course, as well going to be our background shot, because hotel rooms are typically very dark, very small. And so we thought, well, if we could shoot against the window, it'll just make the room feel more spacious and have more light. So we opened the curtains, and guess what we see right outside? Construction. There's a massive construction crane. But at this point, we're now 30 minutes before Lisa arrives. And so we had no choice. So my team worked the fastest I've ever seen them work to set up for this interview in literally 30 minutes. Like, we were still turning things on as Lisa Nichols walked through the door. Hi.
How are you?
Hello.
How are you doing?
Great. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you.
We're gonna hang out.
That's awesome.
Thank you
So much for making time. I know you're crazy busy. Hi.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Sandra.
Nice to meet you.
Rachel. You're my... But I believe that interview was meant to be. And like I say, I highly recommend that you watch both parts, because Lisa gave so many gems, so much wisdom. It was quite something to listen to the interview. But here's something that she said which truly resonated with me. She talked about the fact that I am obedient to my calling. I asked her about, like, why do you do what you do? You've had to overcome so much. And she said, because I am obedient to my calling. I am obedient to my gift, no matter the cost.
When it's time for me to go, I can say, I did my best. And I will hear, I believe in all my soul, job well done, my child. That's what I'm most grateful for, that I am obedient to my gift. And I'm obedient to my calling at whatever the cost. I don't measure my obedience based on what it will cost me. Most people measure the cost, then they choose to be in action. I commit to action, and then I check in for what is it going to cost me.
And she said how so many of us have gifts. So many of us hear the calling of the work that we're supposed to do. But the first thing that we look at is the cost. We look at, how hard is this going to be? How much inconvenience is this going to cause me? Is it going to mean that I lose friends and family who don't support what I'm doing? Is it going to mean that I can no longer do the things that I do to, quote unquote, slack off? But she said that that is what sets her apart from so many people. We all hear the calling. We all have the gifts that we could make use of. But very few of us are willing to live with the cost and the inconvenience that is required for you to fully step into everything that you were meant to be. And that for me was truly the most profound thing that she said to me. And she certainly is someone who I believe has been through so much to live her calling. And she said that, her grandma used to tell her that your conviction does not live on the same block as your convenience. Meaning that, whatever you believe, it's not going to be convenient. It's going to mean sacrifice in one way or another. And so many of us don't want to make those sacrifices. So I just wanted to share that with you and say that there are so many things that she said that were so inspiring, but that for me is the one thing that really truly stuck with me. The fact that you need to be obedient to the call. You need to be obedient to the calling. You need to be obedient to the gifts that you have been given and to use them in the way that you were put on this earth to do, and to use them in service of others. I want to say thank you for watching this episode, and I want to say please don't forget to subscribe. We're on YouTube as @Ndini Media, so you can subscribe to be notified every time that we post an episode. And we're also going to be creating some episodes just for our subscribers on YouTube. And of course, you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram as @Ndini Media. And in case you didn't know, we're also available as a podcast. So wherever you listen to your podcasts, whether it be on iTunes, whether it be on Google, whether it be on SoundCloud, we're available on all platforms that serve our podcast. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.
I set the space because I want that. I want that feeling. I want you to have that familiar, like we met. That's what I was saying earlier. Like I purposely do that dance so that we can have our connection before we meet. A soul connection. So we did. It's true.
We did. Thank you.